Okay, so this is an insert that I worked on, and I used this white gesso by Pebio, which is this one here, the most textured one. And for a very long time, these watercolors, the watercolors I use here are the Schminke ones, and they would just completely transfer into my finger for months and months. I'm not talking here days. It doesn't seem to be doing it now anymore, but I had to be very careful because it literally would just lift off with me touching it like that. And I would also find that a lot of inks, so this one here I had to kill my what is it called, one of these pens, Micron, yeah, Pigma Micron. I had to kill this pen because this was the only pen that would work on here, but of course the tip is not designed for rough textures, so it literally killed the pen in just doing this insert. All the other ink pens that I tried, they would smudge and just not want to work on it. So that was kind of my disappointment in this white gesso. Let's see now, when it had time to dry even more, you can see it still smudges. Let's try this one, and this one smudges. Okay, so white gessos I would not recommend for this type of work. Right, let's try this one, which is a 0. So the first one was 0.5, this is a 0.25, so it's even finer. So it means it's going to create a thinner line, and I want to see how it's going to work and also how it's going to dry. So I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, let's do the smudge test. So we're going to go into here, nothing happens, into here, nothing happens, a bit of smudging, and a bit of smudging. So because it's finer, the line is thinner, so there's less ink. And then finally, let's give it a go with the Permanence. So this is the waterproof ink. Yeah, so this one would scratch off quite a bit of that textured gesso and clog the tip a lot, quite often I would find when I would use it previously, so I just kind of would give up on it. Okay, let's try the smudge test. Nothing here, or actually smudging. There is a little bit of smudging here. Yeah, just a little bit of smudging. So not sure why that is the case. So it's going to smudge here, of course. And it's going to smudge here. I'm going to give it a bit more time because usually I never have any problems with smudging with this waterproof ink. And then we will try smudging it again. Okay, so I have gone ahead, washed my hands, and I also tried a couple more things while it all was drying. So first of all, let's go back to that permanent platinum carbon ink, and it's not smudging, not smudging, not smudging, and a little bit of, still a little bit of smudging here, just tiny little bit. Also, I want to do the smudge test on the watercolors now. No smudging there. No smudging here. And obviously no smudging on the watercolor paper. No smudging, but it definitely came off. And a little bit on the blue as well. Let's see what happens here. Doesn't smudge. This one does smudge, and it does come off as well. Okay. So it might be depending on the actual watercolor as well, how they behave, but basically this is what it is at the moment. I'm also going to go ahead and try to smudge these. They don't smudge. No. Okay. So the ones that I have added off camera, which is this one here, this one, and that one. This is with my beloved Waterman ink, which is inside this Feud the Manon Sailor fountain pen, and it's water soluble, and I love how it looks when I apply water to it. So I just wanted to see how it works and whether it works on gesso, and I like it the best on the clear gesso again, but it actually works on the other two gessos as well. Okay, so let's now have a look at this little test that I've done here. So here we have this little patch of clear gesso and nothing at all on this side. So the obvious is the pencils. They look a lot more vibrant on clear gesso than on here. Pen, I couldn't really tell any difference, to be honest. In terms of watercolor, it sits a lot longer and almost creates like a little puddle, whereas this one goes into the paper quicker and gets absorbed quicker. But also you can see the paper starting to slightly, in a way, deteriorate, and you can see the fragments of paper there. So that is, if you like that, then that's obviously fine, but just to let you know that you get different results. And then I also tried to lift the watercolor, and I was more successful over here on the clear gesso because again it sort of didn't go into the paper as it did here, keeping in mind this is not a watercolor paper but very thin paper. So it was very quickly absorbed here, and I had very little time to lift it up properly, whereas here it was still sitting on the surface of the clear gesso, and therefore lifting was much better on this side. So let's now try actually, and on the other side I'm going to do the same thing as I've just done, but I'm going to do it with a white and a black, with the white acrylic, because I'm actually quite curious how different gesso is to white acrylic and whether you would need to get a gesso or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do side by side white gesso here and heavy body acrylic next to it. This is by Liquitex and it's the professional line. So this is the titanium white. And then on this side I'm going to do black, and let's see again what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to do it now and then going to come back when it's nice and dry and we just do the swatching together. Okay, so I have gone ahead and done basically what we already did on the other side, just so I have it all in one place and don't need to flip through right next to each other. So this is the Dina Wakley white gesso again, which we have here, and next to it I have done the Liquitex acrylic white. This is the titanium white, which I showed you before, and I started swatching and I'm going to continue now. So the difference is it's if you look at it, it has more of it's paint, so it will have more of a kind of, not a glossy finish, but you know, it will look like paint, so it will kind of have that light coming off it. And so let's see how it's going to go. So far it doesn't really want to the watercolor doesn't really want to sit on it properly, and it's taking very long time to dry, and here you can see it's very light. And I mean, you can still work with it, obviously, it's just going to react differently. So that's for the watercolor bit. Now I'm going to go ahead and use the pencils. It does move okay-ish on the acrylics, but for example here it doesn't want to do it too well. You can see, I'll show you a close-up in a minute. You really have to try it, I suppose. I'm just using this Illustrated Faith Bible mat to protect. Let's see, I'm going to do it in the same order to protect the previous pages. Okay, so I'm just going to doodle these leaves. I wonder how smudgeable this is going to be. So we started with the Sarasa Zebra 0.5, moved on to Muji 0.25, and then next to it I'm going to put the Platinum Carboning Fountain pen with the Carboning Platinum Permanent ink, and then going to also do this one. It sort of doesn't want to go onto the acrylic very well either, so I'm just going to use a bit of water too. So here you can literally just almost wipe it off, I find. So it doesn't really look that great. Let's see how smudgeable it is. Probably, I can still see the ink is still drying, so I'm not going to smudge it just yet. I'll give it a little bit more time. And meanwhile, while it's still drying, before I do the smudge test, I wanted to show you on this other side here. I hope the lighting is still okay. It's getting quite dark now. What I've done is I've used the Dina Wakley Gesso in black, and right next to it, let me just move it up a little bit closer. Right next to it, I decided to use the Liquitex Heavy Body Acrylic again. This is the Ivory Black. And compare that, you know, how different is it? And I can already tell you that I love how the black gesso looks. It just looks like chalk paint. I didn't need to go over it to glaze it or apply additional coats. This is as it is. I used the exact same amount of black gesso as I did with the paint. Okay, so you can see that it's just a lot more opaque, and I feel like white pans would look so good on this. In terms of this one, it doesn't really have that much of the satin finish as the white acrylic here on this other side. But yeah, so what I want to do now is I'm not even going to bother do watercolor because it's on black, but I do want to see how the pencils look. Okay, let's bring in some yellow and blue and orange of the Posca pens while we at it, and just have a look and see what we can create. Actually, I'm going to do a pink rather than yellow, so I'm just going to do the same scribbly marks. So that obviously looks beautiful. And then the same on the acrylic. Yeah, so that's pretty much the same. Poscas like to be good to a lot of surfaces. So yeah, I'd say Poscas are exactly the same. Let's try, and before I go into the white pans, I'm going to go back in, and now this ink should be dried. See if it's smudging or not. No, so it's not smudging. Actually, the first one does smudge a little bit on the acrylics, but surprisingly enough, the other two didn't smudge at all. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to grab a few white pens and come back and show you the difference. Okay, so I've got quite a few things. I've got a Uni Posca, I've got Jane Davenport, a broad tip and a medium tip. So these are in unicorn, so they're white, and this one is called, what is it called? White. And then I have a Souffle Sakura gel pan, So I don't see the color here, but it is white. It's one of those that goes transparent on, and then as it dries it turns white. And of course I've got the Signo Uniball in white as well. And then lastly, why not, I also want to try out this Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay White India ink, which I'm going to use with one of those dip pens. Okay, so let's start, and I'm just going to probably fast forward because it's going to be the same thing over and over, and then we're going to catch up later. Okay, so I have done all of them now, and as you can see, it really depends on the pen that you're using, and basically, hands down, on this side, on the black gesso, everything looks so much better and it just looks gorgeous. So if you wanted to create like a spread or a page in your art journal, you could just, you know, use the card technique, which I do, and just smudge it like that. You don't even need to use a brush or anything like that, and you end up with a very even coat of paint. With acrylics it can work as well, but I find that with acrylics it's better to use one of those flexible palette knives and just kind of scrape it like that. For the gesso I definitely prefer the plastic card technique. So the final thing that I want to say is, oh my gosh, I just love these little octopus. This was actually the first time I had a chance to try out this Bombay White India ink with my dip pen, and I have to say I am completely and utterly sold. I have loads of ideas coming up, so hopefully you'll enjoy it. I love how opaque it is. I love how incredibly fine you can get a line, and then you can get a thicker line, similarly to this Sailor Feud de Manon pan, which you have the versatility of different thicknesses of the line. So you do with a deep pan. Now this is a very cheap one. I think I've got it still from my college years, again 17 years ago. So you can buy them. I'll try to link a few if you're interested, and then you can, as you could see, you could get thicker and thinner lines, and you could illustrate, just do a black and white, or you could do like I just showed you on top of watercolor. So that is it today. I hope it's you will find this full of information, because I couldn't find anything like that on YouTube when I was debating what kind of gesso to get. So I just decided I'll get all of them and I'll test them out myself, because I just couldn't find any information in depth that I needed. So just to give you a quick overview, here is again the white gesso by Pebeo. So depends what kind of thing you like. It's the watercolors look very bright on it, but you do have that smudging kind of thing on it. And then my favorite, hands down, is the clear gesso for the work that I like to do. And then no gesso here, and white gesso by Dina Wakley. I like the fact that it dries very quickly, her gesso, literally compared to the white gesso by Pebeo. It dries in no time. It's very smooth, so it has nice properties. But having compared the clear gesso and the white gesso today, I know that clear gesso, I need a big tap of that basically. And then here's the Liquitex acrylic white, again side by side compared to the white gesso by Dina Wakley. And I'll bring that in closer for you to see that watercolor did not work well at all. Neither did the Polychromos pencils, but inks and things like that worked okay-ish. and then here are the black gesso and the black acrylic. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you soon.